Kale Ka'alekahi.
I'm not big on like self-help or like personal development, but what I am big on is creating culture. And for people that have been so lost without any coordinates as to how to be with all these things, because it's reached so far, grieving brings us together and praising each other honors us. If we cry, that means our kindness and our loving parts of ourselves missed something. That's how we honor it. That's how we honor the things that have gone awry, that have gone off track. Tend to the wounds like you would your own garden. Do you want food to come from this composting, or do you want more ruin? If each of us takes care of ourselves within the village, we craft service and greatness, and humbleness, gratitude, all within it. Each and every person, they become part of that contribution to the sacred, to feed the sacred. And maybe that's a solution.
This episode of Sacred Sons Podcast is sponsored by our friends over at Avocado Beard Co. A lot of brothers in our community out there rocking a strong beard game. Ladies, if your man has a beard, check out this small batch organic beard company aiming to simplify beard care for men. Yes, it's made from avocados. Yes, it's real avocado oil. Yes, I have used it in my beard. The guys over at Avocado Beard Co. were nice enough to give our entire team of leaders at Convergence 8 this incredible beard care kit. Check out their new lineup of organic, simplified beard care products over at avocadobeardco.com, home of the one and only avocado beard brush, a beard brush with built-in beard oil, boar bristle brush, a beard pick, and it's all in the shape of an avocado. You have to see it. It's actually pretty cool. If you're somebody who brushes out their beard in the morning, you don't want to get oil all over your hands. This brush has a built-in oil dispenser, so it keeps you clean, it keeps you fresh, and it's pretty simple. Keep your beard game elevated. They ship directly to your door, either one time or hassle-free every 3 months, so you can get your favorite products automatically right to your mailbox. Go to avocadobeardco.com. At checkout, use the code, all caps, Sacred Sons, for 15% off and free shipping. And if you don't have a beard, it's time. Much love, fam. Peace, family. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons Podcast. Sacred Sons, to exist or not to exist? That is the question with our guest today, the one and only Kale Ka'alekahi, my brother, the one who does not exist.
He does not exist.
Yet here he is. How can both be true?
Yeah, it's complex and it's also simple. I'm here, and maybe you know me, maybe you don't know me, but everybody knows Voss, voice of Sacred Sons, so you very much exist.
I'm out here on the waves. Sometimes I hope to exist so much that maybe someone will be listening to this conversation in the distant past or the ancient future. I want this conversation that we're going to have to be for that person who's listening.
That's what
Whoever's listening to this in the year 3000, this is for you. So with that, our guest today, he is a Sacred Sons co-founder. He's a cultural activist and animist. He's a multicultural lineage carrier of the ancient future universe. Please welcome Kale Ka'alekahi.
Yo. Hello, everybody. Back on it again.
And it looks like with this new year, your head is shaved. You've restarted.
Yeah, restart, get ready for the trip, get myself, in a good place to be. Cutting the hair has always been, an interesting one for me. Because for you, you've kept your hair for so long. You know, you remember that one podcast you had with Hunter where you guys kept those dreads. You had that story.
Okay, talk about yours though, because I want to hear yours. I'll check in with my hair journey, but let me hear about yours.
So mine's always like kind of cyclical. It's like when things start coming through my life, that I experience as being, you know, messages or signs. You know, it all gets stored in my hair, you know, in my body hair, you know, on all of that. And then there's certain actions that I believe cyclically as human beings that when we're tuned into things, especially with certain seasons, right? So during the winter time, specifically, you know, you get shaggy, long, you know, you're going dormant, a little more reclusive, internal.
Grow out.
And let the beard grow out, and then all of that, and knowing too, you know, depending on your lifestyle and how you diet, you know, physical pillar, all those guys, you know, get onto the physical pillar because we talk about, you know, breath, posture, and lifestyle. But so cycles. So I very much tap into cycles wherever I am, and I'm going to Australia soon, and so their winter is our summer up here.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, like, I gotta get ready for that summertime. So I just like cut up everything to get myself clean and ready to go. I actually gotta like shave it up some too. But it's been really nice because I've been able to get hair oil in there and massage it all in, all easy. You know, don't have the long hair so much anymore. But that's my journey. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Like I will respond to the times that I'm in.
Yeah, I like that. And actually the fact that you're shifting seasons by going to Australia and preparing to enter into a new hemisphere.
Yeah. Totally different stars I'm going to be looking at, bro. Like it's a whole different
Same
place.
ocean.
Same ocean. You know, it's interesting, right? So it's still connected. And like when I think about the navigator journey, you know, that we have in our ancestry of the wayfinders, it was like we all went to see each other throughout the whole Pacific Ocean, same ocean. And we exchange with each other, you know, culture and technologies. Those two things are very different. Technology is something that provides itself on a larger level that crosses all ethnicities because it's technology. We all use it. Culture, however, is involved in place and regions and how land and ocean and elements inform you. So when I think about going down there, you know, the stories that we have here in Hawaii about Milu or like the underworld, like all these places is because we were going down to places like Australia. Last time I was in the Southern Hemisphere, I was like, going to Tahiti. So it's like the star houses and the star, markers, like the lines that you would follow, they shift and they change. So as a wayfinder, you have to really understand like what it is that you're doing. And you go on for days and nights without sleep because you have to check all of that because you're going into the underworld. That's the beauty of the archetype of the wayfinder or navigator, land or ocean. You become an encyclopedia of the world around you. So I do my best attempts, but I've been so involved with, you know, technology more so than elaboration upon wayfinding. I mean, I used to, but nowadays I've been thinking of like AI.
I would say it's showing up differently for you now because, you know, maybe the last time you were in Tahiti, it was under very different circumstances.
Very different circumstances.
And now you're showing up as a sacred son in this work, doing this men's work on another continent. And, you know, as you were speaking about wayfinding, and I was just looking at yourself and myself and thinking about these men around the world, these Shaolin monks who shave their head as a prayer and as a practice, and these Rastafarians who grow their dreads long as a symbol of power and pride and connection to the divine, and how both are true. Both are true. Both can be true. And it's really about the belief that we give it. And so, you know, there's something interesting I saw. Someone was dogging men's work.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the ethers, not sacred sons, but just in general. And they were talking about how, like, yes, men can sit around and talk, but are they really taking care of each other? there's a history of these brotherhoods and these monks and all these type of people. They take care of each other in the really intimate ways. And even to like body care, cutting each other's hair ritualistically, massaging, preparing for battle. Spartan warriors are known for doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
Yeah. What does that bring up for you when I talk about brotherhood in that way?
When I think about it is what we're doing is, of course, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Like what we're doing, others have trailblazed for us. And now we're picking it up and we're taking the staff, or we're taking the lama, the torch, and we're carrying it forward. When I think about people who are dogging men's work, I think it's because they don't know, like they've never known what it means to like be together. Like even when you talk about Maui, like when we're together, it's like, we hit all those aspects. I think more generally, people look at men's work as being, men need to come around and be like vulnerable, or they need to understand what masculinity means. So men on the outside who imagine themselves or take on an identity that says like, oh, I don't need that shit. That's just weak. Like those men are weak men. Like, cause I know how to do it on my own cause I'm a hustler. Right. Or I've taken enough red pills. Like I know what women want. You know what I mean? Or like, I'm so good at what I do because I shoot a gun. You know what I mean? And I think those are the kinds of men when we talk about like why our society is the way it is like, it's because of men like that. You know, it's like, I'm not here trying to tell you how to deal with your past trauma. I'm here coming to check on you and be like, hey, I'm a brother. I'm alive. I have a life. I have things that I've learned just as much as you have. Come share the gift. You know, I'm not trying to make your life more complicated. I just want to see if you're actually living it. That's all. Like, you want to have an argument? Cool. Let's argue. What do you want to argue about?
And so living it. Give me a little bit about what it's like to be with your team on Maui. You and I had some time together that we shared in Walo. And I guess what I'm getting at is like, it's outside of the events. You know, there's still ceremonies happening. Yeah. There's still work to be done. There's still community to be supported and taken care of. So how do you see it showing up?
So when I think about the work that we do, it's so powerful because we engage men, okay, primarily. And we're not going to be the ones that necessarily know how to grow a village or to make one or to craft one from our own ideas. I mean, that's why a lot of people have issues with patriarchy, you know, or the word patriarchy. But a lot of those people that use that word don't actually know what that comes from, because they're supposing that the matriarchy is where we're supposed to be, and the patriarchy is the thing that's anti that. It's like, no, we're not talking like that. So when I come home, it's about invigorating our brothers into a deeper understanding. Like, we're not just here to do the men's work. We're here to do family work. We're here to do village work. We're here to be in service to something, right? So it's like, you know, the greatest chiefs were always the best servants, you know, and the land will always be chief above all. So then every chief, quote unquote, as a person, will be servant to the land. So once we do that as men, then that work with the mother receiving those original instructions is an invitation for other women, for other families, for other distant relatives to come in to participate with that. We're not saying, here, let's put the Sacred Sons, you know, flag here at this sweat lodge. I'm saying, hey, this is what it looks like to be here. How do we become cultural innovators together? Not just deciding upon one man. And how does this man move with other men? And are we creating spaces that let women feel who they can be in all of that, and to allow children to come through? And that's what my elder would always say to me. You can tell who a person is by how they take care of the elders and the children. Right? It's very simple. And so like when we do this work out here on Maui, it's kind of composting, right? We're composting these parts of ourselves that we do in the men's work. We'll go to events where we come back home and we're like, oh, okay, this is what that training was about. This is what leadership in Sacred Sons was about. Now we apply it. We put it into practice. We're actually like applying ourselves towards what it means to be a man in society that's practical, you know, and it works, and it's fluid, and it's embodied, and it's real. But you're never going to know that if you're sitting, behind the screen philosophizing about men's work all day and telling other people got it wrong, or like you're wrong because you don't understand what God wants. And it's like, that's the separation and the divide that I'm not interested in. When I come home, getting back to the earth, getting back to the elements, getting back to communal, like ways of knowing. And we all have to mature, right? So I'm creating spaces with my brothers because I trust them, because it's taken years. This is a prayer, a long time in the making, for us to start acclimating and orienting ourselves to how do we continue to grow and cultivate village mindedness, kinship mind, ancestral connection for people across the world. Here on Maui, where it's like this small little, in the large scheme of things, dormant volcanoes in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And this is the work we're doing. And it's like, now I'm going to go out to Australia. So it's all strung together. It's like beautiful prayer ties. So that's what I'm doing. It's part of Sacred Sons and it's outside of Sacred Sons, because we know what we're good at, and what we do, we're very good at. We're the best at it. And I know that for a fact because I've seen other men and what they do. And I've seen their other circles. I've gone to them, and their shadows are just so real to me. Yeah, bro, because they're not addressing things,
what do you
right?
See? Like, what do you see out there?
I see. Let me start this way. When men start getting stuck upon 4 archetypes, specifically warrior, magician, king, and lover, and that's all they do, that brings stagnation. There's no innovation. And then it also creates an echo chamber. It also creates this supposed idea that you've got it all figured out, nobody else did. And I wonder, did any of those people actually read Jung? Carl Jung? You know how many archetypes he has? That's what I'm saying. It's like, what are we building ourselves upon? And are we letting men get away with feeling like they can do whatever they want in the community because they got a bunch of guys backing them up because they just want them to be accountable and just say the words like, hold yourself accountable? It's like, nah, I'm not going there.
So what is real accountability?
Real accountability is knowing you're going to get checked. Like primarily, like as men, I can't speak for everybody, but like, look, if I was going to ask for accountability, right? Integrity is one thing, which is like your thoughts, your words, your actions, right? Those behaviors are all in coordination, right? Everything is existing. If I say something, I go do it. If I don't do that one thing, I hold myself accountable for not showing up to the things that I said. However, the other accountability amongst brotherhood should be like, hey, there's consequences to your actions, and this is what it looks like. I'm not saying I don't love you. I do. And this is how I love you. So accountability is love, right? But it's going to be stern. It's going to be harsh. Because I'll tell you what, a lot of us men growing up in this society, we didn't have fathers, or we did have fathers, or they were abusive, or I don't know what it was. We all have wounds. So I'm not going to take on big bites here. I'm just going to focus on, can you hold yourself accountable to what you're saying and what you're doing? Can you also let yourself be guided by others who are doing the same thing? And can that accountability actually exist in a collective consciousness? You're going to get checked. You got to.
As you're saying this, I was just thinking about, in the school systems, it's primarily women who are with the young men during the day. And so that attitude of like checking the behavior for young men, now it's like, you're going to get in trouble and we're going to put you in detention or timeout or just like put you away. There's no redirect to accountability like with the approach that you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
It's missing societally in a way.
Well, I think there's a large part of it too within the psyche of our society is that everybody needs to be tended to because of their feelings. And there is appropriate ways to do it. Nonviolent communication. We've Western psychologized our behaviors as a society. And that's why I talk about indigenizing things so much. Not because it's better, but because it rocks this normalcy that we're all caught in. We're spellbound by this idea that, kids need to be treated as little adults. Yeah. That somehow they know what's good for them, which is like kind of the inverse of what had happened during the Industrial Revolution, where we were treating these kids as little adults and putting them to work. And so now we're going opposite to that. And I don't think it's like the women's problem. I think they find themselves in those spaces because they have the compassion and the empathy that a lot of men do not have. And they know how to speak to these young children, you know, upon like expression of who they are and understanding their place in it. And if they do something that has consequences, you know, that negatively affect others, how do you approach it? So this is what I've come to understand. Through my mentorship, I've been able to speak to different women who find themselves in spaces, especially one in particular, where she works with kids that have been in foster care and in the jail system and have been traumatized by sexual abuse. Okay. She works very, very well at what she does. It takes a lot, but she's been on her ability to be on the land, work with kids on the land. So very good, cohesive, beautiful space. But she cannot reach the boys because they look at her as just an auntie. It's like, oh, you don't know. You're just another woman, you know, in my life. Why do I need to listen to you? Because all the other women in my life weren't there for me. The only examples that I had was, you know, my drunk father or my abusive dad or whatever, beating on women. So why should I listen to you? So there's like that negative aspect to it. So she's asked me is like, what should I do with them? Like, you got to find another man that's around, not to like corral these boys or to harness them, but just that they need a living example of somebody that actually has integrity, can be held accountable and still empathize with their journey and not like be the, which is common in families, right? Dad's the enforcer. Yeah. Oh, you just broke the rules. I'm gonna get your dad on you. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing. We have to reinvigorate our culture, right? So that's where I'm at. It's like limited perspectives is what I'm saying, right? Which is fine. Limitations are healthy, you know, especially if we're always constantly trying to grow just for growth's sake, which is, you know, the society that we're living in economically. So it translates in our personalities. But what I mean though is like, if we're just deciding that these kids that are growing up and they need to be approached this way because psychology says this is the appropriate action, here's the 12 steps. I'm like, why? We don't even know how to do rites of passage. We haven't even done initiations. We don't even know what it looks like to create a human being. Like, you know, and already we want to put into the minds this Western psychology, you know? And so for me, it's like, you know, it gets a little, ethnocentric, you know, it gets a little, you know, caught up in modernity without having ancient teachings that are just as valuable, you know, or even more so, because we've been doing those traditional practices for thousands and thousands of years.
Beauty or value is in the eye of the beholder, right? And so I hear what you're saying there. That's one of the things I love about our son's youth program is because we are bringing back these ways of initiation or rites of passage, no matter how rooted they are in Western culture or how much they have borrowed from indigenous culture. We're trying, we're, you know what I'm saying? We're giving our solution, right? Yeah. So I just love to see that unfolding. How do we do the thing that you're saying? How do we kind of step further away from the pop psychology? Because I see a lot of it in our community as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How do we always get there on the weekends. You'll notice this. We get there on the weekends where it's so real, it's so open, the veil is that thin, where the men are out there talking to the plants for the first time. All of them, you know?
Watching trees grow, they're like, oh shit.
I'm talking about absolutely sober, on brotherhood, you know, just with our own energy. And reaching those levels. But then, yeah, it goes back into the social media world. And here we are swirling in with stories, psychology, this side, that side, you know, it's all happening.
Yeah, it is all happening, man. And it's the information age, as they say, right? So it's the age of information. Therefore, you need more. Or if you don't have enough, then you're left behind and you better get it on all sides and all perspectives. And that's too much for a human being. I mean, that's why we have gods and God and goddesses and deities and all these things, because we're tasking them with the duties that we as human beings are incapable of handling. So when we talk about how do we do this, to me, it's like, are we looking at ourselves as constantly changing, in motion, cyclical, spiraling, moment to moment, where you're present all the time? Or are we going to be rigid and stuck and prescribing? You know, there's a prescription for that. There's a prescription for that. There's a prescription. You see what I mean? That kind of mentality isn't addressing the whole picture. That mentality is only saying there's a problem and there's an answer, right? Or there's a question and there's only one right answer. There's a problem and there's only one right solution. I'm like, there's many ways to approach this. How do we see it? So it's like for us, as we invigorate culture into ourselves, because we're all orphans. That's the archetype a lot of people don't want to talk about. We're all orphans. We're all maidens in distress. We're all knights in shining armor. We're all these things. But orphanism, first and foremost, creates a different culture that allows for things to be innovated and not be stuck in the rigidity or the echo chamber of, I already know. And that's what gets us caught.
What are the characteristics of the orphan?
I think the primary thing for me with an understanding of the orphan is the desire to belong, the wanting to belong, right? So the old sayings, right? A child that has never felt the love of the village will gladly burn it down to feel its warmth. That's the old adage, okay? That's old African proverb of ways of speaking. So to me, that is a clear sign of the orphan. Does not belong, does not know how to belong. It's on the fringes, right? And that's really important to be on the fringes, because if there weren't people on the fringes, there wouldn't be organic food in the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? If there wasn't people on the fringes, we wouldn't have questioned the government. If there wasn't people on the fringes, we wouldn't have understood that there's such a thing as community, not suburbia. You know what I mean? So like the orphan is important for the innovation of the culture. It's not about, let's just, you know, bypass and whitewash and virtue signal and do all that. You know, I say whitewash not as a way to attack people who claim to be white. I'm saying that's a certain version of a syndrome, like a wetiko that is eating and it constantly eats. So what I'm talking about is the orphan is not the solution, but the path to become, the path to belonging. So embrace that part of yourself. Then culture will arise. There is no tradition now that's going to answer our globalized societal problems. Not a single one. But I can tell you the merging of traditional cultures, the merging of contemporary cultures, the bridges in between is what's going to harness and build resiliency amongst people and make it adaptable. But I'm not going to get stuck is what I'm saying. You know, and a lot of times for people when I speak, it's like, yeah, I'm on the fringes. Like, why would I listen to this man? You don't have to. But I'll tell you what, like with a voice like mine and the way I articulate things, you tell me who else is talking to you like this. Not very many.
Why should they listen to you? Because it's interesting, man. Because it's a unique perspective. It's a unique perspective. I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to you, because of your unique perspective. When you say that we are all orphans, there's going to be an immediate reaction from someone that's like, not me, right? Because I got myself, because I know myself. What do you mean when you say that? That we're all orphans?
I believe that we've all been abandoned. That's what I believe. I believe even though, you know, as a person that carries different lineages, different heritage, I'm still a hybrid. You know, there is no one single origin. There is no idea of a pure race. And the people that had chosen that was because something traumatic had happened to them too. So then they put themselves on the altar of color and they said, this is what I'll bleed on now because I need to feel important. That's an abandonment. That's a severing, right? That's a severing of what has happened previously. And we're all the progeny of such things. I don't concern myself with the color of your skin, not because I don't see color, but because that's not the most important thing I'm speaking to. And obviously there needs to be spaces for those things to be held in ways that other people can relate because of the system we're in. But don't ever deny the very real fact of your existence is that something has been abandoned. Something has been set aside or something was cut off like a limb and we all got ghost pains. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I got, you know, gratefully, thankfully for Creator, I've got, 10 fingers, 10 toes, eyes to see, ears to hear. I got all my senses. My head's here. My amatua is residing in me. My ancestors continue to speak through me. I've got my own hurts and pains too because of that abandonment. I don't come here talking like I got it all figured out. But I will talk with enough passion, to invigorate some bodies that are listening, because I believe that's what's important, because I've been abandoned too, and that's why Kali doesn't exist. Because I am in the realm of the fantasy. I'm in the realm of somebody else's perception. And we could put it as simple as this. The story that I have about me is one thing. The story Adam Jackson has about me is another thing. What Sacred Son sees of me is a whole nother one. How my mom and my dad understand me is a whole different.
Always,
you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The woman that I share my bed with is saying, it's like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't exist at all.
There's all these stories about me, but where am I in all of this?
Yeah, what am I doing here? So I get also too, like, the archetype of the orphan, but there's also the archetype of the mentor and the guide as well.
And so what is that responsibility not to abandon? Because here we are. I'm a father. I have chosen as a life path and spiritual path to be here and to stay. Okay. And so what is the responsibility not to abandon further, or to simply be here?
I believe as much as we try not to abandon each other because of the story that we still carry within ourselves, it's going to happen again. And of course, there's ways to prevent such things, which is what brotherhood is so important for. It's connection. And those parts of us that were abandoned by someone else, we can once again redeem or reconnect to, because it felt that way or it happened that way. And many people are like, I'm just going to tough it out because I felt so abandoned. I felt so pushed aside, outcasted, exiled. So they lone wolf it, or whatever you call it, right? So the responsibility that I believe is this. What is the vision that we're all holding? Are we talking about villages? Are we talking about reconnection to earth and to ancestry? Is that the vision that we're holding? Okay, we can't abandon the vision. That's our responsibility. Bring our children and our families to the forefront always, and make sure that we as men hold ourselves accountable to each other as to what that looks like, because we're sharing that same vision, right? Diversity brings unification. That's the responsibility. What's the vision that you're holding? If you ain't got that and you ain't living through it, then your opinion doesn't matter to me, because you're still going to be in that same operating of dealing with that abandonment, right? Where what I'm saying is, let's call each other together. Okay. That's the responsibility. Calling each other together to immerse ourselves in another ecology of human being. That's really hard for people to understand, right? Because the wound is so deep. Yeah. But I get it. I do. And I'm just saying, like, look, the only thing that I can feel responsible for is my actions and myself and my words, and for the vision that's been gifted to me that I can share with others. I'm going to hold that sacred. I'm going to behold that and be held within it. Otherwise, I'm just going to repeat the same patterns that had come before me already. And we all know where that's headed. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, look at what we're doing, This isn't something that's just happened. When
you say it's obvious where it's headed, my immediate thought was like maybe more suffering. That's where it's headed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, every time I do lodge ceremony and people come out of that lodge, we haven't drank any water that whole time. And then we do even more prayers and sing. And then we all pray together on that water, because we're praying for all those who don't get to drink, who have not had any water, who've gone on without. Right. And so then we give our blessings to the land, to the fire, to the lodge, to each other. And then we drink that water in gratitude that we actually get that. See what I mean? So for some people's understanding of what that sounds like and looks like is like, oh, how cute, how quaint, what a beautiful novelty that you guys would all, touch in on that. But what it's doing is actually expanding our awareness to know that, like, there is suffering going on in the world. Okay. And that suffering comes from separation, divide, conquer, manipulation, over and over and over. So it's not that, tribal people back in the day had it right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, to the effects that things are going on right now with a globalized society where everything's being dumped in the ocean. There's people mining cobalt just so you and I can have a conversation on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, It's wild. And it's deep. It should be deeply felt by all of us, right? So that there can be a change that comes. That's what I'm talking about. You know, it's hurtful, man. It's hurtful. It's hurtful. We should all be grievers. We should all be crying. You know, I'm not saying, wallow in your sorrow. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, what you're talking about is look what we've done.
Yeah.
It's like, man, if we, as we've woken up and matured in this life, there has to be a moment where we say, look what we've done.
Yes. And being alive is a risk. It's going to come with conflict. I can still be conflicted with that. I don't have to embody myself in the entirety of what the world is going through, right? I don't have to do that, because then that's going to destroy me in the process. But what I need to do
something else entirely, I feel like, because that's like, look at me in my suffering type of thing.
Yes. That's another ailment of being an orphan.
It's a different thing.
It's not knowing how to grieve the things is what stagnates us, and not knowing how to give each other proper praises for what we've got, because we don't have it for very long. And these are the same things I've been saying for years.
I've been listening.
It seems to be the thing that continuously comes up, like, because, you know, we're talking big story, right? And then we're also talking within too. So, you know, I'm not big on like self-help or like personal development, you know, but I understand the value. But what I am big on is creating culture. And for people that have been so lost without any coordinates as to how to be with all these things, because it's reached so far. Grieving brings us together, and praising each other honors us. If we cry, that means our kindness and our loving parts of ourselves miss something. That's how we honor it. That's how we honor the things that have gone awry, that have gone off track, that have lost itself amongst the ways that, you know, you and I both have felt, you know. So I'm just saying, tend to the wounds like you would your own garden. You know, do you want food to come from this composting, or do you want more ruin? Like, if each of us takes care of ourselves within the village, and we craft, you know, service and greatness and humbleness and gratitude all within it, each and every person, you know, they become part of that contribution to the sacred, you know, to feed the sacred. And maybe that's a solution. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer to the ancient old question: to be or not to be.
That's the one. What do you think about this title I'm giving you, cultural animist? Because it's not only to be an activist, it's to give life to, it's to breathe life into culture. Yeah, what does that feel like, cultural animist?
It feels good. I think there's also like an understanding for people is like, so I can say it this way. Animism is a faith, right? It's not like an organized religion. Okay. Animism is knowing that everything has life in it. It might not be the same human life that we put on a pedestal above everything else, you know, but everything has life, and everything has a certain kind of honoring that needs to be done. Rock, right? Plant, animal, mineral, and ethereal, the things unseen. So when it comes to animism, all of our ancestors, previous to any organized religion or monotheism, were animists, first and foremost. They believed that everything had life in it. And it comes with its taboos. It comes with its superstitions, its old wives' tales. You know, it comes with all of that. But it also comes with a lot of beauty of understanding where you came from and where you're going. Your origination resided in knowing that there is anima, that there is a spirit in all things, that things are animated through life. They exist, therefore we are, so we can exist. So the other part is cultural, right? So the idea that we hold such things as culture, as how to navigate human beings into humanhood or creationhood, you know, being a human, being a cultural animist is hearkening back to the beginning and not saying we need to go back there. It's a hearkening. It's an invoking, a calling upon. This is the ancient remembrance that I've had etched in my own bones, I am seeing myself as a genetic specimen amongst other specimens, that I also too need a story so that I don't falter upon the path of harnessing all of my relations together. And it doesn't mean we don't suddenly become free of eating food and we're all breatharians. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is, can you honor and praise life and death? Can you know that your own dying has a purpose because your life has been entrusted to you? Because the way that you live, if it's beautiful, then so will your death be. Cultural animism to me sounds a little bit like that, I guess.
So I want to breathe some life into this word that I use all the time, called brotherhood. When I asked Stephen Jenkinson about it, he ripped me to shreds. That's how he does it.
He's got to.
He said it's an honorary title and an accusation. It was like he just started tearing me apart, but I loved it. And so what I wanted to focus on is this part called the hood. Okay, so I know you love etymology. And so what's the first thing for you that comes to mind if I say the word hood?
Something that covers your head.
Yes. Yes. Something that covers your head. This is the first of 4 definitions of the word hood. And so something that, or you could say a protective covering, right?
Yeah, covering, yeah.
Right. Now there's also what exists in nature, in the anima, is the hood that animals produce when they mature, or the marking of an animal as it matures or changes shape or metamorphosizes. So the hood of certain types of birds is a symbol of maturity. Okay. Now another definition of hood would be like a place or a location, like your hood, the neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Or even a time period, childhood, adulthood, you know? So it could be a place or a time, space and time, a protective covering.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the final definition, which is a state of being, or even like a state of being in agreement. And so as we talk about what brotherhood is, I have some really, I got some juice around this word hood.
Yeah. Tell me more.
But I want to hear from you now. After hearing this definition, it basically that when it's all said and done, it's so symbolic when I use it in the term brotherhood, this marking of maturity, our place in time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then also this agreement that we make to hold a standard of being, and thus, you know, when we combine that with the word brother and all that brings along with it, I feel more connected to that word when I think of it in that way.
Yeah, the eloquency of hood and the way that you've put it too, you know, the etymology, you know, the origin of the word, and going through the deeper layers of understanding, not just as definitions, right? Not just as a solid, like, oh, you know, this is exactly what it means. And therefore we all have to know it like that in order for us to move forward. Now, what I hear is an elaboration upon the times that we're in and the way that we're choosing to do it will continue to create and exist itself because it's not stuck. It's animated. Brotherhood is animated. It moves with more bodies in touch. It moves with more conversation. It moves with more conflict, more challenge. And it moves with setting the standard and understanding accountability, integrity. It moves with responsibility. It moves with wounds. That's what I hear about brotherhood. But then I also hear too that like all of that is a very big risk. Okay. That knowing what we've known and coming from where we come from and seeing how men have behaved, knowing the histories that we hold, brotherhood looks like probably the worst thing we could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you compare it to armies or the Ku Klux Klan, brotherhood, right? Or those monks on the mountain, or, you know, or.
And that's what I mean. Like, so it's a great risk. It's like essentially like to do the impossible is to have such a thing called brotherhood, because you know that once you're vulnerable with someone and you're giving them your heart, what are they going to do with it now? Can they hold it? Can they carry it? Or are they going to stab you in the back? Because they stabbed you in the back before. So it's like, I thought I had brotherhood, so what are we actually doing here? Right. So it's like, yeah, there is this place is for us to exist in, but we also got to like wear that hood. You know what I mean? And it's kind of crazy because it's like, am I protecting myself in this thing, or am I actually being who I am in all of this? Is this really who I am? And I think that's one of the most beautiful inquiries through the heartache of having brotherhood is like, we're going to do it again. Right. Like my heart is shattered from the way I've experienced the men in my life. But yeah, the way I've experienced my life, with other men or masculinity. And here I am again with another attempt, another like hand up, palm out, like head bowed. We're going to do it again. Okay, let's do it again. And I'm more than willing to do that. I am, cause it matters that much.
Dude, I love that you're bringing in to this, the original wound of brotherhood, because that's what it is. And in almost, I would say all stories of brotherhood end. Even Jesus was sold out by his brothers in the end.
Exactly.
Like one of the most famous stories of 12 apostles.
There you go.
I've talked about, previously, the story of the first humans being brothers, Cain and Abel. And we know how that story goes as well. That is that original brotherhood wound. There's many stories of brothers in different cultures who wound each other, who harm each other. And these are brothers that shared a womb many times in the mythology. I'm just curious in any of the lineages that are there any stories like this of brothers or of?
Yeah, absolutely. So a common story that we have here in Hawaii is understanding Kane and Kanaloa. Okay, so Kane is given this stature of being a little bit stocky, shorter, big body, because he's of the earth, he's of the sky, he's of the sun, he's of all these things. But he was also like a builder. And then you have Kanaloa, who's taller, more slender, navigation, because he's of the ocean. Okay. So each of them creates in their own kind of specific style, right? What Kane does on the land is grandiose and big and everything's thriving. What Kanaloa does in the ocean is it's subtle, it's soft, it's fragile, like corals. You know what I mean? Still savage, just like on the land. But there's a part of the Kanaloa that's deeply unconscious, right? Of like how we operate in our minds, right? In our bodies as human beings. And that's the story. Where Kane is like this higher consciousness, right? So then people create this dynamic of hierarchy between good and evil, right? Right and wrong. Kanaloa is the devil or Satan. And, Kane is like God or like Jesus, all that is right and wrong. But we as Kanaka don't see them that way. We see them as companions. We see them as collaborating, right? Coexisting in creation through, wanting each other to thrive. Okay. So without Kanaloa, okay, there would be no rain, because that is the beginning of the water cycle. And without his rain, without his grief to set up upon of how deep his sorrow can be, yet he has to give something up, goes up to the mountains that Kane had created, and it drops down. And then now you get the daughter of the sun and moon, which is the streams and the rivers. So these two brothers are facilitating life. They're both co-conspirators on the same line, though they're carrying different duties, different roles. So it's a duality consciousness that so many people are against. Everybody wants unity consciousness. Unity consciousness sounds like fascism. You know what I mean? Like, we all have to think like this. We all have to do it this way.
I just talked to Kevin Walton. Thunder and lightning. Here they are. Here are the two brothers, Kane and Kanaloa. You guys are it, bro. You guys are it. Yeah. I don't know what that makes me other than the observer, which I love. But you know, that's just it. So
yeah,
unity consciousness. Say more about what you just said. Why does it feel like a psyop? Why does unity consciousness feel like more colonialism, let's say?
So first, I love Kevin, and we're always we're always good with each other, because I just want everybody to know that I think there might be some kind of like rivalry type thing, you know, like John Cena and The Rock. You know,
we have to.
He's like The Rock, and I'm like John Cena. It's like, you can't see me. You can't see me. And he's just like, what? You know, that he does.
I'll just put this out there for those listening. If you haven't, go back and listen to the podcast episode Thunder and Lightning. You can hear Kale and Kevin going at it head to head. Just like that. Just like it's a WrestleMania episode.
Pro wrestlers, bro. Like, listen here, brother. You know what I think about your unity consciousness, brother?
If unity consciousness is not it, you're doubling down on duality?
Yeah. Yes,
it's like 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils. Yeah. Okay. I am.
I'm gonna double down. I got 2 hands, 2 feet. You know, look, all is not one. Okay. All is many. If what I'm saying about diversity is true, which means there's adaptability in diversity. Even people who ally themselves to science, they can see that stuff. You know, if you're an evolutionary theorist, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what's needed. We need more species. You know, we need more types of ways of being on the land. We know that the ecology is harnessed and good when they have, you know, top predators around, and then also an abundance of prey. Like, however you want to separate those things. So to me, it's like, we're not symmetrical people. Okay. You know, if you ever seen those things where they take half your face and they align it and it looks like 2 different people, but the same person? Like, we're asymmetrical, right? So even within myself, I'm not unified in that way. Even within myself, I've got mixed bloodlines. Even within myself, I'm a hybrid person. Being pure is just another way to say, like, I don't know how to flavor food or something. You know what I mean? Like, purity doesn't exist. Purity provides this idea of unity, right? That unity should come around because therefore now we're all perfect and we're all pure and we're all doing it all together. And I'm just like, that ain't it. If that was it, right? Then why do we have imperialism? You know what I mean? Why did things come up? Like, you big topic right now, right? With Israel and Palestine, you know? Why did the Nazis do what they did to the Jewish people? Right? Because they thought about unity consciousness, didn't they? Because they thought about a pure race, didn't they? Because they thought about supremacy as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like, sure, you want to unify, I get it. Like, that's wonderful. I do too, to a degree. Until it starts getting real shaky out there. You know what I mean? All wars were made by people who thought they were right. You know what I mean? So once we start getting into those realms where like groupthink is happening and we're all starting to absolve ourselves of the responsibilities that you and I have been talking about this whole conversation, then all of a sudden it's going to look like, oh, we're all unified on this one idea. And it should look this way and everybody needs to do it this way. I'm like, we got to be very careful. We got to be very careful because, like I said before, we've already seen where that takes us. And it works for a lot of people, you know, and that's what I want to say too. Like, there's a lot of things that some people just, they need that understanding to direct them, because life has been so hard. Life has been so fragmented and disjointed and abusive and traumatic. And like, it's terrible. And I grieve that. And it's not the end all. There's more like healing that can happen in those spaces too. So
the one is many.
Yeah. All is not one. It's the many. So it's like the one comes the many, from the many comes the one, as they say. So it goes back and forth. Right. And that's kind of what I exist in. Right. So I can unify myself internally. If I'm driving my car and somebody does something, you know, stupid and risks my life, I'm not going to, you know, have a road rage, you know, experience and want to like, follow them and to the point that I'm going to like do something to, like, no. So then therefore I recognize that, okay, unify myself right now. I'm good. I don't know that person. It's fine. Now the opposite side of that is people imagine, duality consciousness means separation, right? That person, if I was dual in my thinking, he's my enemy. Like, no, that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. That's a different thing. That's about a malignant ego. You know what I mean? Like a malignant ego that's so bruised and hurt.
The belief in separation is a malignant ego?
The belief that you have an enemy because there's separation.
The belief that they're the enemy.
That there is an enemy because we are separated. That's different. Separation is good. Like, I'm not trying to live in your house with your family. I'll come and visit. But you and I are not going to be like unified in one house. I mean, Hannah's the boss. I mean, like, and the kids are doing what they do. Uncle gonna come around and love them up. And then there's like time that I need to give my graces to the household and to the home and to the mother and to the father. You know what I mean? That's your guys' work to unify it together as a family unit. And then bring that diversity to the village. You know what I mean? So that separation is healthy. But to imagine that because we're separated, we're divided, and therefore now I have a nemesis or an anti-hero to my hero's journey, that's an imperialist, malignant ego going on. And people don't even know they're doing it.
Where did that leap come from? From separate to other to enemy?
I think one of the things that happens to me too when I talk about this, that people think I'm romanticizing the past. And I'm not romanticizing the past. I'm just saying that there's other cultures that have done it differently.
Yep. So the majority of people like you to romanticize the past. They want that.
Right. There was a better time, right, Kale? Yes, there was a better time. Gather round, children. Let me tell you about the times when Uncle was not there. But still got some stories passed down to him. So the way that has been understood to me was that there was other times when we lived more egalitarian, that we saw that there was the abundance of the land. It was syntropic, like composting ourselves. So when we talk about composting ourselves too, it's like those parts of us that die because they need to, because now we have other parts of our adulthood that needs to be achieved. And those other parts of us die, and those things be composted into the lifeblood of the village. Okay. So knowing the connection to the land, first and foremost, that it will provide. I'm not saying every environment is that way, but many of them are, and they still are, if you know how to be on that land. So when we talk about the tundra and the deserts, there's still nomadic people living there, and they're not just surviving, they're thriving. They understand the cycles. So they're not confused.
You just illuminated something so important for me, because the desert religions, the same ones that rule to this day, they all have the story of an angry God, of a vengeful God, because it's like nothing grows in the desert. Things die in the desert. It's harsh in the desert. And so therefore the perspective is not one of abundance, but one of harshness. Could this be a potential source, is what I'm saying, for the conflict?
I believe that. And I also want to say this. Those religions came about not because they were desert cultures and didn't have, because they once were abundant cultures that had forests and trees and jungles and waterways until they destroyed it. That's what I'm saying. It's like that religion that we're talking about that becomes monotheistic, Abrahamic, whatever, of a vengeful, God that is constantly setting us up for failure,
demanding sacrifice.
Yeah. That is a conglomeration of different gods harnessed into one, because these people were once all tribal. They were living a certain way. And then they went through cycles of war, and that war was happening because they saw the restriction and the limitation. So that's what I'm saying, is like, there's certain places of understanding where culture will always be informed by the land and what's given to it, right? So when we start losing our ability to give back to the land and to the unseen forces and keep ourselves intact with that, and then we start domesticating things, And when we start overusing land, we start overusing water for our own gain and our own benefit, because there is such a thing as corruption and greed, then we start to see the others as separate, as enemy. Because what was once free-flowing and abundant has now been restricted to only a certain few. And then that's what keeps it. That's why we hear words in the etymology like Lord, right? It's like the keeper of, right? Keeps things. So it's like when you keep the food, okay? So this is what I always talk about as well. When you control the water, you control the food. You control the food, you control the people. You control the people, you can control everything. Because that's been the riddle of steel. It's not how many bombs you drop. It's not how big the sword is or how sharp it is. It's about how many people are willing to get behind you. How many people are willing to hold a vision? How many people are willing to bring abundance back into the world? So that's what I believe had happened to those religions or to those people that now have those religions, was scarcity came upon them over millennia of that thing going on. I mean, like, people love Egypt. You love Egypt. Everyone loved the pyramids. Okay, now look at
love the pyramids.
Right. We all love the pyramids. We all love what they're about.
We love it so much we put it on our logo.
So even the people there, they say 15 to 20,000 years ago when the pyramids were built, that it too was like a jungle. It too was having water there, right? Now you look at the Amazon rainforest and people look at it and they're just like, oh, this is just a rainforest. It's the lungs of the earth. It's here. It's like, no, it's because people cultivated that over thousands of years of nomadic tribes journeying through the forest, composting constantly, biochar, all the things, regenerative agriculture. And in such a way they created songlines, just like the Aboriginal people did out in Australia. It wasn't all desert. That all happened because of the misuse and the corruption of people that were also sick. The Wetiko man, that malignant ego. That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. So when we see the Amazon rainforest now, it's just like this wild place and all these things. It's like, yeah, there's parts of it. And then also it would get cultivated and manicured, and then it would go wild again. It would keep shaping and shifting. But now a lot of those people have been taken away. They've been genocided. They've been stripped away from their homes and from their land. And so then now we have ranchers. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing that happened here on Maui. Maui was once a beautiful place of a bird sanctuary. And we can have the argument that, like, well, native people came and they logged too. Yeah, they did to a degree. But when you're on an island, you're going to feel the effects and the impacts of your trespasses easily. And so they course corrected. Immediately. So they course corrected. So the religions that we see as people, right, if they're monotheistic, polytheistic, one isn't better than the other, right? It's the civilization that births it. Right? Because you can still be a Hindu and still believe in advanced civilizations and imperialism, but have a polytheistic culture. So that's why we go back to animism. What is the thing that unites all of us? Can we all agree that there is great mysteries and creators that know more than we do and have more capacity and competency than we do? Or are we going to say, I'm the only one. I'm the one that's got the truth. I'm the only one that's here. I mean, I think that's really been the biggest downfall for us as human beings, amongst many things. But I think that's one of the bigger ones, is that we lost ourselves, and we haven't made the return, and the convergence, the return, And we haven't made the return. And I'm just waiting for the time that the world chooses to wake up again, and maybe that might be for me, but I'm going to keep doing it because I believe that, your children deserve it. Your bloodline deserves it. My bloodline deserves it. Not just deserves it, but I mean, we've been here for so long, bro. Like, we're the human beings here out of like how many millions of years we've been around. Like, it's kind of badass.
Well, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think Homo sapiens are only 200,000 years.
200,000 years, yeah. But there's been other kinds of humanoids.
200 to 300,000 years of Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
And you're right, man. It's like, we're here now.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do? Just like, oh, well, this is the hand we've been dealt. get in line and wait till somebody else like tells us what to do?
Yeah, I want more plastic in my life. You know what I mean? Like, give me more plastic goods, please. Like, no, I'm not interested. Like, look at this. I made this with my hands. It looks like a feather duster. A feather duster. I would go clean things around. You know what I mean? And people are like, it's a feather duster. I'm like, no. This is a kahili pa'alima, like one that you hold in your hand.
It's a staff.
Yeah, it's like a staff, right? So why am I showing this? Like, why even talk about this? Well, one, because everybody that I have calls with, they look at that, they're like, is that a feather duster behind you? I'm like, no, it's not a feather duster. It's actually it's a cultural artifact that I made with my own hands. So what this one is made out of rooster feathers.
Oh, wow.
So, but back in the day, we would make them out of, the indigenous birds that we have here. A lot of them died off, right? Because of things like malaria and, mongoose and feral cats, eating all the birds and the eggs and stuff. So I make this now in this way with what I've got as a remembrance to what my ancestors had done previously, right? And I'm not using the same materials. I mean, they didn't have ribbon, you know what I mean? They didn't have toothpicks, you know what I mean? They created things like that. So I have to continuously innovate myself with my ancient traditions in this modern way. Okay. Right. So this kahili pa'alima is about recognition of what I am as a person of value and who I am a maker's mark of, who I learned from, who showed me, who taught me. So rather than having like a flag, a national flag.
Or a degree from a university.
Exactly, bro. Like, this is my certification, this is my degree.
Yes.
Like, I've learned things,
I can't tell you enough, though, as somebody who was born and raised in Ohio, you know what I'm saying? I know where I come from. I know what my life was like when I came to Maui and we had a moment on the beach.
Yeah.
We made some very simple tea leaf leis. I'm looking at this thing like it's more amazing technology than this iPhone because I'm learning it from you. And it's only the raw materials from the earth, and we're using our hands. And then on top of that, you're telling me a story that's thousands of years old and the meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about that that's so much more animated than having a piece of paper to confirm, like, hey, I'm a doctor because of this paper, not look what I can make with my hands. Or to present it in that way is really beautiful.
Oh, legit. Thanks, brother. Yeah, I remember that time too.
That was the first of many. The very first of many times.
I think what's so powerful about that too, like as you're expressing it, it's like, yeah, there's everything is wrapped in story, right? It's just constantly all around us all the time. And I feel like, oh shoot, like it's just so much. Like I'm overwhelmed, but then I also get to share it. And everybody gets to share in the creation of that beauty. And like from that time at the beach, well, with us, was like, oh, I'm going to bring this to the events. You know what I mean? I'm going to show these brothers like these parts of themselves of like, look at the plant. Can you have a relationship with that one? Do you know what she's asking for? Do you know how to move with her? Or are you going to keep doing the same old things, imagining it's going to change? And I think that's how we really need to understand our humanity too, right? Just to bring it back to that of creation with the hands, wakahanakaike, and the doing is the learning. And in the same way, our ability now, more than ever, I believe, because of how far technology has gone and all the things are happening, is can we still be adept with our hands? Do we still know how to do things around the house? Can we fix things? Can we build things with our hands? And, being a handyman right now is a lucrative business. At least from what I can tell out here on Maui.
Even with all the information, even with all the YouTube videos that tell you how to unclog the drain, change the pipes, do the electrical work.
Yep.
Right. You still need those makers. You still need that lineage that comes through the apprenticeships, through the mentorship of the craftsman, of the electrician, right? Which is a great example. like of what you're saying. And we're even losing that, and we're losing it. And what we're doing with our hands is just this simple fucking motion right here, or like looking up more information. Mm-hmm. And then even the food, I think it's even more important. The food is not being made by human hands now.
Yeah, bro.
Think about that. We talk about not putting our feet on the earth. What happens when the food doesn't touch human hands as it's being prepared?
Exactly, bro.
And so we make the lau. We get to sit in circle and like really go there and talk story and pray as we make the food. And the one thing I love about the lau ceremony, I'm speaking right now about at Maui Mana. Yeah, these are some of the things we get to participate in together.
Yeah.
But making food with our bare hands and knowing that this food that I'm preparing, I don't actually know who it's going to be eaten by.
Yeah.
Right? Right. It all goes into the same pot, and we're all collectively contributing to it. It's not even like making it for myself, but putting that prayer in and trusting that the other brothers are putting their prayers in, because we're all going to take part in this ceremony of eating this food.
Yeah, bro.
Gosh, we've lost it.
We've lost it, bro.
We've lost it. I'm in my goddamn truck eating Starbucks.
I know. What am I doing? I'm eating my Burger King, listening to these two fools talk about reminiscing about making food with their hands.
I mean, and then even the coffee, we've done it. Like in our lifetime, we've seen the explosion of industrialized coffee.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah, dude.
Haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a Starbucks in every corner when I was a kid. Definitely people were drinking coffee, but not like it's being consumed today and then throwing all the sugar in it and all this other shit.
There was like this chart that gave all the companies' earnings. And Starbucks was like the highest when it came to like food and beverage, more than like McDonald's. They made more money than McDonald's.
If you look at the nutrition facts, the Starbucks food is actually worse than McDonald's. If you can believe that. It gets worse.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. So like, since we're on the topic, it's like, a big thing that I'm doing out here with the community is getting people back on the land, and we start working with regenerative agriculture and like agroforestry. And so I know that was we did an event for the Farmers Union 2 weeks ago. Me and my other brother, Adam, who taught me a lot of the agroforestry, the life and syntropy that he learned from his mentors that actually came from Brazil. So they work in similar climates, right? So the Farmers Union was there, and we're on this plot of land that's only been going for 3 years, okay? And so the initial crops that they had was like turmeric, right? And like cassava, like root crops, right? Ava, like ava root balls to nurture the soil. And then they start planting in banana, cacao, pineapple, like all these other beautiful plants. And it just starts to grow. And then you start to see the layers, and it's all done in like kind of a line, like rows. But it's a multi-layered, food forest. Okay. That eventually becomes a much larger ecosystem, and it thrives, within itself, right? Because everything that grows, it is regenerative, because entropy, things die off without, external inputs of energy, right? To keep it going. But when it's entropic, it cycles back in. So there's certain trees and plants, or certain trees that are grown that are specific for the time in the beginning to cut green debris off and remulch, right? And recompost. So everything goes back into the soil, and it feeds and nurtures it. Right now, we're using sprinklers for the water, but once it gets to the point that there's like another larger tier of the forest, it can water. It
canopy,
takes another
protective
canopy,
cover,
a
hood.
That's what I was getting to, bro. You got me.
I'm sorry.
Right there. But that's what I was saying. It's like, that's the neighborhood. That's what I was getting at. I was like, all those plants are coexisting in collaboration, and they're cooperating. And we as human beings should be gardeners, wild tenders, stewards of these beautiful ecosystems that can be recreated again. And that, I believe, will revitalize our souls. And then we can start coming back into connection, that unification that everybody wants. But it's going to start with the plants first. Earth first. And water too. The same goes for the waterways. Once we let the fresh water go into the salt water, into the ocean, it creates a brackish water, but then there's a beautiful environment for things like mollusks, or other crustaceans. and things like that. And then we also get to create fish ponds that are natural, not fish farming, fish ponds. And these fish get to come and go as they please. But then once they get too big, they get stuck in there. Then we harvest them. And the same thing goes is like when that water is free flowing, all the debris from the mountains, all the plant material, all that plant matter goes out into the ocean, and it feeds life, feeds those fish, it feeds the corals. And so then now we have more to know about it.
Bro, I'm coming to live at your village. You might not be coming to live in my house. I'm coming to live at your village with the fresh fish, with the brackish water.
You're gonna be able to eat fresh raw sea urchin and oyster, my brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's where we're headed.
Kane and Kanaloa, we gonna pray to them. Let's go. I'm coming to your village, son.
Come around. Come my hood.
Yeah, so this is where your passion is like getting these systems going again, being a cultural animist and a gardener. I mean, this is bringing it back to being a warrior in the garden.
Yeah, that's been the dream. Rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, you know?
Yeah.
And even in me saying that too, is like, I'm not very, keen on just war. You know what I mean? Like, I'm aware of it, but I've also held true to a lot of these things that was gifted to me from my family, these knowings and these ways. I could have done like what my other cousins did, which was stray away from it, but I chose to stay and stick around. And I think there is an important thing to be said about that. Not just staying at home or staying in your hometown. What I'm saying is being true to who you've been since you were younger. And what does that mean? Even if you leave it for a time and you come back, just know there's that core parts of yourself that needs to be cared for. No matter what age. Some people don't find that till later in life. But I've been grateful that I've continuously came back and returned to those parts of myself that was nurtured when I was young. And so that too, like,
Thank you for staying. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for choosing that, because it's a rare thing in this world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is rare, man.
It's so rare that when we come across somebody else who's doing it, we say, "Oh, that's an Irish Kale right there."
Yeah.
That's an Australian Kale over there. That's how rare it is.
It's one of those. It's one of those Kales over there.
And that's why you don't exist.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You got to find you all the way around this world. My brother, I got to run.
Yeah.
I'm on the carpool, picking up my boys, making sure everybody's taken care of. I could talk to you all day.
That's the real men's work.
Yeah, man. Yeah, raising these babies. That's I stayed. That's why I kind of said that earlier. It's like I'm staying. I like that energy of this. Can we stay? Can we stay put, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's hard, even when we've been told that there's something better out there,
right?
And then we come home to realize it was there the whole time. I think that's what we call purpose.
Yeah.
When we can connect to it in that way, when we can bring it all back home.
Yeah, bro.
That's where purpose is residing. Kale, with that, is there any final message, prayer, or song, or words that you would like to leave with the brothers and the sisters who are listening? And these are for the ones, Kale. This is for the ones who listened all the way to the end.
Yeah, right.
They stayed with us the entire way.
So here's your Easter egg, your gift for lasting so long. Yeah. Firstly, just thank you, brother, for your guidance, and also for your fatherhood and your mentorship. Thank you for bringing another life into the world. With, all the things we talk about. I'm glad that there's another one, like you in the world. So that's always been my good, big prayer for you for a long time. And then for everyone else, continue to re-indigenize in the ways that you know how. More information is not always going to solve the very things that you think you need. Don't always need to seek. Decolonizing is good. It has its place too. But remember who you are at that human level. And all the archetypes of, the orphan, the sage, the great mother, the great father, like the explorer, the navigator. Embody all those, the trickster. Be on the fringes. Hold yourself steady and know that whatever you're doing now is leading you towards who you're always meant to be. And if you are who you're meant to be now, good for you. And cheer on the others and support them. So with that, I was going to say this prayer, just echo my real quickly. May we continuously ask for the knowledges above us and around us to be seen through the way we speak and sing our songs. E ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e o na mea huna no e o na mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e o na mea huna no e o na mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e o na mea huna no e o na mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai hanu puka.
And there it is.
There it is.
We exist.
We exist.
We do.
We exist.
We exist.
Yeah.
And with that, thank you, Kale.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Love you, man.
Love you too.
If you want to connect with Kale, go to his beautiful website called Ka'alekahi.com. You can connect with him. You can connect with his story, with his teachings, and if you want, potentially some mentorship. Yeah. Highly recommend. And I highly recommend any of the brothers and sacred sons. If you're looking for that rites of passage experience, look no further than Maui Mana. Oh. If you're a part of our leadership training, it's an initiation that is a requirement, straight up. It's been a part of our culture that we're creating. And gosh, we've been doing it for some time now. I'm very proud of that fact.
Me too.
Yeah, man.
Very proud.
All right. Until the next one, blessings on your journey to Australia. Blessings to the brothers who will be joining us down under. Until then, Kale, Adam, Sacred Sons, brothers, we're out, family. Choo! Peace.